I started for the ground, and the next thing I know, there was an explosion behind me that knocked me forward across the ground. You almost didn't have an Uncle Mike.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Salute Strong podcast. Today we have as a guest Vietnam veteran and DAV chapter president Michael Ryskamp. He's here to talk to us today about his experiences in Vietnam and his experience with the DAV. I hope you enjoy our short conversation and the first episode of the Salute Strong podcast. Let's welcome to the show Mike Ryskamp. Mike, how has your day been going?
It was a good day so far. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right, bro. My fellow warrior.
So a while back, you contacted me and you were talking to me about getting involved in veteran service organizations. I believe the DAV was the one that you were talking to me about.
That's the whole thing. The warrior's creed came back to me
Mm-hmm.
about not abandoning anyone. It sometimes it's hard for others in my family to understand because you got to give back.
Mm-hmm. Is there a piece of advice that you would give to somebody in the military right now?
When I meet these young guys who are still in and such, I meet them on our flower drive and stuff. Hey, I'm in the Marines, blah blah blah. I'm in the Air Force. And one of the things that I tell them is, don't ever leave a station without getting copies of all your medical records.
Right.
And I met this major at the Lions Baltimore game. I gave her a couple of hints. She says, "Don't worry, I've got all my medical records."
What do you think is important to somebody who's getting out and wanting to file a claim with the VA?
Were you ever under attack? Guys have to learn how to do things like search the internet. I was lucky because Vietnam had been pretty well declassified, and reports that had formerly been confidential and secret, like monthly summaries that included all the attacks and everything, that enabled me to document 14 times I came under fire.
So I haven't heard very many of your stories about Vietnam. Would you mind sharing a little bit about it?
We didn't have the combat action badge back then. Oh, I got shot at everything between a sniper who wasn't very good. He was just taking pot shots at us. The one went over my head. Then it went through the the company headquarters wall and right over the first sergeant's head. It was all on a line. You know what I mean? Over my head and down into there. The first time that we got attacked, I was responding to my fighting position, and it was a mortar attack. And I heard, you can hear mortars in the air, like RPGs and mortars. You can hear them in the air. And when you don't hear them, that means they're coming down. I started for the ground, and the next thing I know, there was an explosion behind me that knocked me forward and across the ground. You almost didn't have an Uncle Mike.
So what was your job while you were in Vietnam, and what rank did you make?
I worked in ammunition. I was lead records clerk. They promoted me to E5 as a sergeant, but my orders read Spec 5 was specialist. But the captain handed me E5 sergeant's bars and said, "I don't have enough sergeants. You're a sergeant." Yeah, no NCO academy, nothing.
Where in Vietnam were you stationed?
Two places. One was the Phu Thai Valley, which was over the hills from the ocean near the port city of Quy Nhon. And the other was on K. If you ever saw We Were Soldiers, that was the base they operated out of. I was there for 13 days shy of a full year. They made a mistake on my orders. Instead of getting my full year, they put the wrong date on it. That was a good thing.
Yeah, and the less amount of time there, the better. So, how long have you been serving with the group Disabled American Veterans, and what positions have you held?
I've been a member since 2003, but I wasn't very active because it was still being run by World War II vets. The chapter had two reorganizations from the state leadership. When I came back the first time, I took a I took a position which was legislative liaison. Following year, I was second junior vice commander, and the commander died, and the guy who was the senior vice commander was a Korean War vet, and the guy that was beneath him, the first junior vice commander, was a guy who suffered an injury in the Navy where a hatch was dropped on his head,
Mm-hmm.
and he had got a disorder, and he doesn't drive, and so he didn't want to be commander. And I took the job. It took me a full year to learn what to do. We've kind of unofficially instituted the fact that you stay in your job for 2 years so that you learn. And there was a guy locally who I guess I'd call him. Uh, he's like an ultimate sports freak,
Mm-hmm.
and he just did 5 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours and raised $4,800 for us. And we need it. We have two vans. We
Mm-hmm.
take guys to medical appointments. One guy we actually take grocery shopping. When I have two drivers that are active and they're really good, and I have two guys who are drivers in training right now.
So, how far are the medical facilities that you have to take these people?
Well, from my house, it's allegedly about uh, 53 or 54 miles.
Is that the only one in the area too?
Well, no, but the nearest clinic is 5 minutes from my house.
Oh,
But they're closing that one, opening a bigger one that'll be about, depending on time of day, anywhere from 20 minutes to a half hour. And then there's another clinic north of here, which is a little tiny clinic. But I I see a lot of guys that are so worse off than me, and I got to do something about it.
the VA healthcare just opened up to like basically anybody who deployed since 9/11 is eligible for VA healthcare.
It's going to be insane.
I know we've talked about the fact that you are 100% VA disabled, but it took you a long time. Tell me about that.
I got my first health card early 90s. I was only, quote, service connected injured, 0% disability. And that was on a knee that I eventually had to replace. It took me a long time. My first claim was filed in 73, and I got my 100% January of 19. And the only reason I finally got it, I put it in for my PTSD, and I put in unemployability. I realized about 2015 or 16 that my PTSD was getting worse because I was getting angry at my grandkids. I didn't do anything, but I felt it. You know what I mean? And when I went in for the one when I was for unemployability, that CNP was in 2018. And I went in and I told them, I said, I'm retired. I told the psychiatrist, I'm retired. I've been retired, blah, blah, blah. And I said, but I know that if I wanted to go back to work now, I couldn't because I'd hit somebody. I got unemployability at that age.
So, Mike, I really appreciate that you talked to me about these things, and I'd love to talk to you more.
Well, it's really good talking with you, man.
Yeah.
Call anytime you feel like it. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.